Thank you for inviting me to have this presentation. It's my pleasure to be here in front of the sawmill industry experts to talk about the outlook of chemical pulp supply and demand, especially from the Finnish perspective. So since the regression of 2008, I think we all have seen the positive development of Finnish pulp industry. And behind this success has been, of course, this wide and advanced forest cluster that we have here. And as Kai mentioned, I have to use his word also, that this sawmill industry is part of the backbone in this forest industry cluster. So sawmill industry has been the start for the whole cluster development in Finland. First came sawmills, then came a paper, and then came a pulp. And I think myself, I'm also a good example of this history development, as my grandfather worked for the sawmill, my father for the paper mill, and I'm telling here for you today about the pulp business. So I think there is key things that I want you to remember about the Finnish pulp industry today. Thinking about building the future, we have to remember that we have in Finland leading bioproduct technology and mills, and this is good base for the build the future. And for the successful of the future of the industry, we need to have a cost competitiveness market and be competitive globally. And third, this wide and advanced forest product sector will enable the success in the future. And I thought that I will use the time in fame to talk about the vision hunters, but maybe I skip it now to save some time. Looking at this Finnish pulp exports, pulp market during the last 10 years after the 2008 crisis, we've seen that there has been a development of 1.7 million tons of capacity. And if we would put the paper export development in the same slide, it would be show for the paper almost 2 million tons negative trend, and only exception being the carton board, which has also been growing about the 1 million ton in this last 10 years period. And what we can say from this slide is that, of course, we all know that the bleached softwood kraft pulp is the key driver for the Finnish pulp industry export. And as a new trend, since 2012, there has been also the export of dissolving wood pulp, which is last year totaled 150,000 tons, but that is the one global trend growing, driven by the global textile and fashion industry, who is looking for the more sustainable fibers. Okay. And then if we look at what has Finnish pulp industry done during the last 10 years, in this picture on the right-hand side, we can see the all capacity changes, or the mills where has been a capacity changes during this 10 years period. So, and this dark blue is bleached softwood kraft pulp, so we can see that the major of the changes has been in softwood side, and which is of course integrated in this sawmill industry strongly. So in total there has been 1.5 million tons of more bleached softwood kraft pulp capacity in Finland. Of course, Äänekoski being one of the major impact on with the slightly over 700 tons plus market pulp. And then, but also 370,000 tons of hardwood kraft pulp, and this 150,000 tons dissolving pulp. And it used to be birch place, but now Stora Enso has announced that they will make the conversion to softwood-based dissolving pulp. So Finland, this changes what we have been done in Finland in bleached softwood kraft pulp. The change has counted for 30% of the growth globally. Here we have also fluff pulp numbers with these numbers, so it means that a lot of growth in fluff pulp has been taken in North America. And this growth in hardwood has been smaller, so the share of the total growth is also been less. So to conclude, Finnish pulp industry has systematically been investing to improve their asset base and profitability. And in the same time, these companies, they have been also looking for new alternative revenue sources and how to fully utilize the raw material that we have. If we think about the pulp as a wood as a raw material, in a pulping there is a lot of biomass available for utilization after cooking it into pulp. So I think these all are familiar for us, what can be done from hemicellulose, cellulose, and from lignin. And also there's also in lignin relation to your industry application that can be used in plywood. And just as a major potential of the side stream of the pulp mill to optimize the full fiber raw material is this carbon fiber. Just an example, if we would have 650,000 tons of pulp and 10% of the lignin would be extracted, totaling 33,000 tons, it would create 16,000 tons of carbon fiber that could be used in 160,000 cars. Today, assuming that they would use 600 kilos per car, this carbon fiber, in reality, it's only 1 kilo that they are using today. But showing the potential, and of course that would have a positive impact on environmentally many ways. So drivers behind this change is of course the full utilization of raw materials, also utilization of all side streams, and also recently this all global warming and trends there has been accelerated the need and opportunity for these type of products for additional revenue. So we can conclude that we have these leading bioproduct technology mills globally. But then important part, second thing is that for the future of the Finnish development is the competitiveness and understanding where are the market that Finnish pulp industry is playing. I guess we cannot avoid talking about China and Asia. What we see here during the last 10 years, the share of China and Asia as an export market has increased from 20% to 40%. So, and this is the market where Finnish pulp industry has to compete. So a few words about the China and Chinese market on pulp industry point of view. So if we look back in the history, we see that thinking about the paper demand, because the paper demand is the key driver for the pulp consumption. And so China has been accounted for over half of the demand growth globally. And the main growth has been in China and in other regions, the packaging and the tissue. And in China, the key aspect is that the usage of the virgin fiber in a tissue and in the packaging in many for the safe and healthy reason is driven by the government regulation. and that is one reason for the growth opportunities for pulp in China. And of course, these environmental and sustainability issues is not a new thing in the agenda in China throughout the waste paper ban. We all seen the decline in non-wood pulp production in China that has actually given opportunity for pulp imports into China. And looking at the future, the trend will be the same. The demand for the paper will be led by China and Asia. And it will be the packaging and tissue grades. And as a new opportunity and trend in the pulp business, we would say that what has been also growing since 2011 after the shortage of the cotton, and all these sustainability drivers is the textile market growth and usage, and look for the sustainable recyclable fibers. That we have, what we can see here on the left side is that the cellulosic fiber share has been increasing from 3 to 5%, and then we estimate it almost to double from the 2008 levels by 2025. And in tonnage terms, it means like 3.5 million tons more dissolving wood pulp capacity needed, again, mainly in China. And what is good about this from the softwood production perspective is that in the viscose fiber production, you always need from 10 to 20% of the softwood fibers for the runnability of the viscose staple fiber plant. So it means at least like 500,000 tons of the more softwood fiber to be needed for the textile industry. So to conclude, what is really driving the paper industry and demand for the pulp, increasingly these mega trends and demographic drivers are impacting the demand. As we know that the tissue and packaging are the grades that are most impacted, like population growth, urbanization, middle class growth, and all these that we have been discussing about this economic decline or threat of China and global slowdown will have impact on these grades. I have to admit that tissue is the one grade over the business cycles that have never really declined for the demand. So that in that sense, it's a good market to be. And then when we talk about the paper-specific things in the packaging and tissue, there are like, especially in the packaging sector, the climate change, changing life cycle, looking for more recyclable products, is driving really the demand for the paper and further to the pulp. And finally, what are the trends impacting more on dissolving pulp is exactly these sustainability, limited land availability of cotton. So this fashion industry is strongly and heavily looking for the fibers that they could replace the synthetic fibers. And then what does it all mean as in a pulp demand point of view? These bubble size, they reflect the growth in these different regions. So again, we end up talking about China. For this dark blue bubble being the hardwood kraft pulp, our estimation is that demand will grow by 5.5 million tons, and the green bubble is the softwood kraft pulp, including the fluff. The estimation is 2.3 million tons by 2025. Of which about a little bit over 1 million ton is 1.2 is paper grades pulp. And also the similar amount of the dissolving fibers will be required to supply the Chinese viscose staple fiber industry. And maybe one comment about if we think about the Chan's presentation this morning, as a biggest threat from this economical point of view, I would think this trade war and also the economic slowdown to be the key risk for the pulp demand. And one thing I think it's really important to remember anyhow when we talk about the pulp business, that it's commodity business and it's volatile and prices are changing. And as we can, what we have seen here since 2017 and 18, the price trend was positive. And I have to say that I've been 10 years going these pulp weeks in London every year. And I guess this last year was the first one that it was really truly pulp sellers market. So it's been always the opposite. So we have to remember that this price differential between the hardwood and softwood is also defining the cost pressures. And looking on the coming year, this 2019. What we can see here in the blue bar showing in the down, there is a Billerud-Korsnäs integration, there is Arauco conversion to dissolving pulp, as well as Stora Enso conversion to dissolving softwood dissolving pulp. So there is a positive changes to maintain the good supply-demand balance in the or tight supply-demand balance for the softwood kraft pulp in the coming years. And so this still comparing that the softwood and hardwood market, because they are the substituting grades, so they are you have to look at them as a pair. So what we can see as a trend-wise is that this manufacturing cost difference of BHKP and BSKP has been widening in the last 10 years. And one of the reasons for that is that if we look at the hardwood kraft pulp, most of the capacity, 9 million tons, has been taken place in Latin America with very competitive wood cost, and in Asia with the competitive wood cost, excluding maybe the China. And then on the contrary, when we think about the softwood kraft pulp increase, the most of the capacity has been taken in North America and Western Europe with a little bit different cost structure. So this change between a hardwood and in the fiber furnace, it is dependent on this price correlation between these two different grades. And if you think about the supply of the side of the softwood kraft pulp in the coming years, and we come to the competitiveness of this boreal forest, and boreal forest based, of course, being in I guess the map is not showing very well, but it's supposed to be the Scandinavia there in the top bottom, and the Latin America here in the down, and so there is two different type of operating models of the industry clusters if we compare the boreal forest and fast-growing plantations. So in this boreal forest, this mechanical food industry is the very important part of the successful industry cluster, and this our boreal model is very competitive. And then, as a third point, I would like to emphasize that this wide and advanced forest product sector is really the key for the our competitive advantages. So what we have this, first of all, we have sustainably managed forest, and we sustainably utilize our forest resources in this industry to produce both wood products and chemical pulp and paper and paper board, and there is strong link between these two sectors. And with all this, we produce a wide range of different end-use materials for the mechanical industry and the pulp and the paper industry, and of course still these innovative growth products like whatever bioproducts, they are under development, and they will be part of the future on utilizing these, the whole potential of the fiber. And we have also talked today about the Finnish education and what is the importance of the education for this forest industry cluster. And I fully agree that all the education behind this cluster is important part for the maintaining our industry competitive. And also, not to forget all the valuable R&D work that is done for Finland in all these sectors, from the textile fibers, the wood products, and the pulp packaging, to maintain the competitiveness of the industry. And to conclude, first of all, this leading bioproduct and technology mills, it means that we have to have the full utilization of the biomaterials, and there is still significant potential for future development. And new pulp mills, it is the great platform and opportunity for diversified product portfolio in the pulp mills, but of course pulp will remain the backbone of the business. And a pulp is in a way as a semi-finished products, and this value added will be done in the place where the competitiveness is the best. And thinking about the competitiveness in a global market, economies of scale is the key when producing pulp. I think here in Finland, building and operating these huge capital-intensive mills is really one of our key strengths. So we have to be competitive in pulp quality and cost perspective, and this will enable us to for the future, for the various end uses of the products. And of course, in this commodities, in a way, positive thing when we think about this concept of large-scale production as such in an important factor for competitiveness. And finally, this advanced forestry wood products, pulp and paper cluster is relatively rare in the world, so we can be proud of that. And this fast-growing plantation have their advantage in some areas, but the whole this Finnish industry boreal forest system is really state of art in the industry. And as a final point, I think that Finland is recognized wide attention not only by the Aurora borealis, but Boreal sylvestris. Thank you very much.